Greetings once again. I invite you to take a moment and settle in, to feel the earth beneath your feet, to feel the love and the community that surrounds you this morning. And I invite you to open your minds and your hearts to today's message of change. It has been said for centuries that the only constant in human lives is change. And from my perspective, this does seem to be the truth of the matter. The only consistency in my life has been change. From a child to an adult, from a student to a teacher, from a wife to a widow, from a quasi-conservative Republican to a liberal, well, we'll just say liberal. From a pessimistic lost soul to an eternal seeker with ultimate optimism. My life, your life, is continual change. And I, for one, have learned to not just embrace it, but to thrive with it. All living things are changing, moving continually, even all of you sitting here today. Looking right down to the molecular level, you will see the components of life itself. All of our molecules, they're vibrating up and down and all around. They're dancing to some unknown beat by an unseen drummer. But it's more than that. All of our cells are reproducing, they're growing, and at the end of their cycle, they're dying. They're constantly in flux to make up this glorious creation that we call a human body. Charles Darwin was quoted as saying that it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor its most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. So once we accept that we are in a constant state of change, once we can really wrap our heads around this concept, I believe that we can shed some of the heaviness, some of the fear and the anxiety that change brings, and accept the power that is inherently ours, and harness that energy for a positive forward momentum that has unlimited potential. Because whether we like it or not, change happens. We know from numerous medical and behavioral studies that any kind of change, good or bad, causes stress. A new baby, marriage, divorce, death of someone close, leadership changes, maybe a new minister or a new DRE. All of these changes can cause large amounts of stress. But these are adaptive issues, meaning that when we can acclimate to the changes that these events create in our lives, the stress levels will diminish. Maybe not for 18 years or so in the case of a new baby, but you kind of get my point. Whether this change will shock you or elate you, it will give you the opportunity to see yourself and reality through a whole new set of lenses. So if change is constant, why does it scare us? Why can it cause such fear in a relatively fearless people? Why does anxiety sometimes arise to critical levels when change is introduced? So how many of you right now are anxious about changes in your lives? Change in jobs, change in family, yeah. Change in health? Yeah. So remember that a change need not be huge to cause an adverse reaction somewhere inside of us. There are three major questions that arise with any real change in our lives. One is, what do I have to give up or modify? Two is, what if I or it fails? And three, where do I now fit in or belong with this new change? Because you know, the old way of doing things has the assurance of tradition. It's been tested many times over. We know just what to expect from it and how to relate to it, even if we don't like it. Because the changed way has no history, no lab tests, no proven viability whatsoever. We have no idea what to expect from it or how to relate to it, and this is the part of change that can lead to fear. Fear and its best friend, anxiety, do breed quickly in any change to what I'm calling the known kingdom. And you need not look too far for an example of this. It happens whenever gun legislation is spoken of, whenever there's a new mosque to be built somewhere in our country, and it happens every single time we get a new president. Systems theory states that people and social institutions evolve only when they can no longer produce needed results. So as long as results are achieved, then there is no real incentive to change. But as our needs change, different results are required. So let's take, for example, the consolidation of our faith. It has long been said, jovially yet truthfully, the Unitarians had all the people, and the Universalists had all the money. To gather larger numbers and sustain the Universalist faith, that system needed to marry the Unitarian faith. And in reverse, the Unitarian faith had many people, but not the funds to grow and to thrive. Now, even though this joining together was decades in the making, the theologies paired very well. Open conversations had been taking place for many, many years, and it was as well planned out as it could be for the first of its kind merger. Can you imagine the fear that this huge change created in many hearts of Unitarians and Universalists of the time? Some of the changes in our UUA today are causing discomfort for some in our faith, and dare I say it's for those three reasons that I just mentioned. What do I have to give up or modify? What if it fails? And where do I fit in with this new change? Our UUA board has gone from 26 members to 14. All of our board members are now at large. We're no longer having trustees from every district to represent us on the board. But, heck, in some places we don't even have a district to represent. This is the case of our neighbors in the north, in the Mid-America region, that is made up of the former districts of Prairie Star, Central Midwest, and Heartland. But that brings us to some of the changes in our own backyard. About 3 years ago, the UUA program staff and district executives here in the South became one team serving the Southern region. The title of district executive has gone by the wayside and has been replaced with congregational life staff. All 7 members of the Southern region's congregational life staff, affectionately known as the Hallelujah team, it's got 2 U's in it. We now have approximately 35 to 40 congregations that we each serve as primary contact to. And I am humbled to be your primary contact for your UUA staff. I like to think of this collaborative staff change as not a loss of a district executive, but as the gaining of a whole team. We're no longer restricted to specific districts that are held apart by drawn boundaries like those double yellow lines on the highway. We now have those nice little dotted lines where we can move in and out of the areas that need us. We can share tools and resources, and we can dip into the really deep wells of knowledge that all of the other staff members possess. Moving a little closer, there's been much talk of covenant, alignment, relational clustering, and something called the Orlando Platform. If you're interested in the direction that all of our 4 districts are moving into as a covenanted region, I highly recommend you checking out the Orlando Platform. It is available on our Southern Region website at uuasouthernregion.org. This document identifies some of the challenges our faith is facing, and it was the instigation for conversation on how to overcome some of those challenges. It's not a commitment statement. It's not a prescription for specific changes, but it's a commitment to work together across the Southern region to develop organizational and governance strategies that'll strengthen Southern Unitarian Universalism and our faith as a whole. As of this time, the districts of the Southern region are comprised of us here in Florida, the Mid-South, Southeast, and Southwest, and they have no plans to fully disband to create a large district like those in Mid-America. Though there is movement to modify the governance structure in the 4 districts to free up time, talent, and energy to do the work of shared ministry. This will be the biggest topic up for vote at the district assembly in April, so please do watch out for the Southern Region online newsletter that contains updates from the district presidents. Join in on a regional webinar coming up in the next few weeks, and those will be hosted by your district presidents. And always feel free to email your board members. All 4 of our districts have consolidated their operating budgets into one over the last 2 years, and we're now in our first fiscal year of a truly unified operating budget. We here in the Southern region have been into our 2nd year of the GIFT program that has taken place of the APF program. GIFT stands for Generously Investing for Tomorrow. This is a change in the way that we covenant with our fellow congregations and we pledge to our UUA. No longer are there 2 separate pledges. There's just one unified ask, and it's not based upon the number of members that you have, but of your annual expenditures. The goal for GIFT program is to have everyone giving at 7% of your budget expenditures, and the head tax is no more. Your congregation now just sends one pledge to the UUA, and they in turn send it back, payments back to the Southern region, rather than congregations paying one to our association and one to our district. Most of our treasurers and bookkeepers are more than happy to write one check every quarter instead of 2. So with all these changes going on, what are some of the changes going on in your congregation? How might you best utilize your new minister and your new DRE to further your mission? Maybe some of your work will center on creating processes that will last for many years. Or maybe how will you grow in maturation and in depth? Other questions to be discussed might be, how are you known in your community? Or how do you wish to be known in your community? Are you living your Unitarian Universalist values out loud in the world? What's the vision for UUJax? What is your truest mission here? And how might we covenant with one another to reach those goals and reach out to those who need us? Change can be far-reaching, traveling out like ripples on the water. And sometimes it can do amazing and magical things for both the people and the communities that they love. I believe in magic, so I have faith. And my friends, we are all in this together. So then, why do we fear change without knowing exactly how it will affect us? I feel it's often because society has imprinted upon us that change is not safe. For too long, we have been led to believe that we are ultimately alone. And separation, or the feeling of aloneness, is truly the greatest source of human suffering. The cure for this is no more complicated than reunion. The cure for this, in my opinion, is the life-saving message offered by Unitarian Universalism. The message is this: you are not alone. You are not alone. You are loved where you are, how you are, and for who you are. True growth is in struggle, and the struggle is so much better knowing that you are not alone. But perhaps we fear change as a precursor to losing control. Control of our homes, jobs, children, maybe even our whole lives. But that's the key to the issue: control. It is this false sense of control that we all proclaim that we have over our lives and our realities that does not allow for us to keep a sense of power in times of change. And it's here that fear is born. The serenity prayer that so many hold dear is a good starting point to discern what we can and cannot control in our lives. But I lean more towards a rewritten version. How very Unitarian Universalist of me. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can't change, the courage to know the one that I can, and the wisdom to know that that one is me. Shall we do that together? Let's do that together. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to know the one that I can, and the wisdom to know that that one is me. It's a deep suspicion of mine that we're actually terrified of the responsibility inherent in living up to our divine potential. And this adds to the fear of change and failure. Human history is dotted with many examples of fear of change, rooted in the loss of control of the known kingdom. For example, people were once labeled as heretic or blasphemer for not just believing, but openly dialoguing that the earth is round. Because the known kingdom knew that it was flat. Or maybe coming to terms with the sun being the center of our universe and not us ego-driven control freak humans here on planet Earth. Could you imagine living in times like that? The fear and the anxiety levels had to be through the roof with those changes in thoughts and in science. Throughout various times in human history, we have stunted or killed off large portions of our creativity and our imagination to protect the known kingdom of our lives. And I say this needs not be so. So let us take, for example, water as a metaphor. I'm very fond of it this morning. We can never step into the same river twice. Right? We can never meet the same wave on the beach more than once. Water is often thought of as rapid change. We refer to the flow of things or the fluidity of motion. But water is also slow, monotonous change, like carving of valleys and canyons. The key here is that it is in continuous motion, continuous change. So if we take that rolling, rapid water and we scoop it up into a cup or a bottle, and we just gaze into it, you can now see that it conforms to the size and the shape of the vessel. It's still, It's reflective. It's clear. This is now the water's known kingdom. Its energy has been diminished, and its potential is now limited. Such can happen to the human being that is unwilling or unable to adapt to the changes that come across our path. We become stagnant with limited potential. But now, I invite you to look right here. You see a face of a constantly changing person from the moment I got up here to right now. I now invite you to look to your left. Go ahead, look to your left. And see the same qualities on your neighbor's face. And now look to the right, knowing that they're there as well, and that we are all on this journey of change together. So at the end of the day, what's all this talk of change really mean? We as Americans are always so focused on ridding ourselves of the fear of change and too little focused on learning to live and adapt to it. I say to use it for fuel as forward momentum. Embracing change and the associated feelings that ride its coattails will help to prevent us from being paralyzed by it or allowing it to wreak havoc in our lives when it appears. As Holly Near sang in the song that we heard for meditation, may the winds of change caress us, even though it burns our eyes. I am open and I am willing. So be open and see and accept the known kingdom for what it is, what it currently is. But not as a capital T truth, except that what is known is constantly and even rapidly changing. And to stay relevant and purposeful, we must encompass change in our lives. When change causes an overwhelming reaction in our lives, I invite you to first breathe a few times. And then find your faith. Your faith in whatever higher power you call to. Your faith in the root of humanity. Your faith in yourself. Like author and poet Victor Hugo said, change your opinions, but keep to your principles. Change your leaves, but keep your roots intact. Try to see change as an opportunity, one that cannot be fully appreciated until you have faced the inevitable uncertainty. The key to tackling change is to have faith in your own resiliency and to face the fear head on, knowing that you are not alone. No one is immune to change. Change happens, and we are all in this together. I will conclude my message today with my favorite quote from President Barack Obama. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or for some other time. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And may it be so. And namaste.